gentlemen, I just want to remind you that we actually have an email list and we would love you to join us. If you want to sign up, go to www.thewizardandthepriestess.com and find your sign up button. Join us today.
You are with Matt and Norma, who are here to talk to you about life.
All of us.
Thought it was good stuff.
Good stuff.
Good. All right, Matt, where are we at?
What do you want to chat about?
Been a bloody big week in this new Plutonian
Hasn't it what?
alignment.
Bloody Aquarius.
You never thought it, and then it happened. Shit just hit the fan.
There's a lot of shit hitting a lot of fans.
So in so many ways there's been a lot of stuff going on for both Matt and I, and it sort of feels like we're being propelled to do things differently, or to think, or to, like, I guess more than anything, just stand in the truth of what we believe. And I think I've been tested this week, or in the last few weeks, more than I think in any time. And I feel like the capacity I've had to create has been expansive beyond what I could have ever imagined. And it's quite an interesting thing because we're coming, like, the new moon that we've just had on Sunday, it obviously brings in that December and all those bits, but it's like that end of the Gregorian calendar year, that last month, but it's like also the sort of beginning, the new moon of the next 6-month cycle. And it's sort of interesting because after I had some pretty interesting experiences, then this new moon came and said, do you really want what you say you want? Do you really want to do the things that you're saying you want to do? Are you really willing to become who you think you want to be? And are you ready to let go of all the things that are not actually serving you from a illogical type?
Well, it's an easy trap to fall into as well, because when shit hits the fan, we're designed to just look at the fan. No, we're not designed to. We're conditioned just to look at the fan, and then the fan is the symptom, yet we're just continually cleaning the fan instead of looking at how the fan got shit on it.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for the cool analogy.
Yeah.
Won't be able to look at the fan. Yeah, so I think it is a really interesting thing. So what I was like kind of writing down and thinking about as we're preparing for today was this: where is our point? Where is our line in the sand that we go, all right, whilst I believe in holistic health, whilst I believe in wellness and looking after myself, both like mentally, physically, emotionally and spiritually, whether, like, I believe that to be true,
mm-hmm.
Where is my line where I give up on that? Where is that point where I actually go, I willingly need to step out of my truth
mm-hmm.
to feel safe? Or is it my truth? Or what is that? And I think in recent times there has been things that have happened that have made me really go, whoa, I'm over here believing my truth, but walking this path, trusting what I do to be real. And yeah, I'm being tested, I guess.
That's a way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, to really lean into, okay, where is that line? And where do I sit with it? Do I want to willingly give myself over to a system that is based on sick care, or do I want to keep walking the path and along the road that I truly believe to be empowering and powerful?
Well, that's an answer that only you can, especially only you can answer. However, it's one of those things that we are conditioned from very, very young to put doctors, priests, teachers, those kinds of people up on a pedestal, and we are conditioned to believe their word as gospel. So when a doctor tells you something, then our ears kind of spike up straight away. When a teacher tells us something at school, we believe that like it's gospel. If, all of these people have it's a privileged position. And I'm not saying that I'm sure there are malice people out there, but I think the majority of them have, good intentions. And it's the way they're trained. And for example, if you have some kind of scan and it comes back showing something that looks on paper to be concerning, you're going to take that as gospel.
Mm.
And should it be ignored? Absolutely not. That's information, great. On the other side of that coin, it's the equivalent of looking through a straw. It doesn't show you how it got there or what to do. It simply shows you that's the photograph I took at that particular moment in time. Doesn't look above, it doesn't look below, it doesn't look at the rest of the body. It looks at that specific photograph and just tells you a detail about that photograph. But that's really all it does. And it's one of those things for me that it's better to have and not need than need and not have, absolutely. Just like all kind of Western medicine. But then putting your entire faith into that, I think, is equally as dangerous as not believing in it at all.
Mm.
It's like a tool.
Yeah.
If we have a hammer in our toolkit, we're not going to use the hammer for every single job that we do. So it's a tool in the kit. I think if we rely on that system to keep us healthy, then it's a very dangerous game. But then if we completely ignore it, we might need it one day, because if you're in a car accident or some kind of event where it's a bit weird, then
it's great.
It's great.
There. And I guess what I want to pull out of is this idea that I would say that I'm pretty alternate in my thinking and in my belief in the body. But when recently I've been kind of pushed to this line where it said, okay, here is a scan. This is something that we're seeing in this picture. And then it was a matter of moments, within hours, it went from here's this picture to you must do as we say. You are now on our radar. This could mean imminent death if we don't do as we want to do.
Mm.
You must listen to how we want to do what we want to do to you or to it. And then it's a bit of a like, oh, wow, like there's no choice. There's no thinking.
Well, there's no discussion.
No. And in that moment, there's also that, okay, where am I willing to give over? Where am I willing to bring myself back into that exact, what you just shared, that snapshot of belief, and that this is just a snapshot. This is just a tool that I can now use as I move forward in how I would treat and look after this moment or this symptom or this thing. So it's quite an interesting thing to actually have that like thrown in my face, which is quite unusual in a sense, but to be like, oh wow, okay, what do I do here and where do I go from here? And I think that is something that people are coming up against all the time. And the thing was, in this specific example, we chose to do what we always do. We chose to go, okay, thanks for that information. I hear you and I respect your position and your authority on this particular thing. However, I'm going to take this tool and I'm going to go do something else, and I'm going to seek what's outside, what's to the sides, what's above, what was before, and what will come after, without just taking this piece of evidence as gospel. And that is so out of this world. The way that the system looked and perceived that decision was beyond, like, you are actually insane.
And it's scary as shit.
Yeah.
Too, because as I said, we're conditioned to believe that as its gospel, and the fact that you go against that, this, essentially, this is the whole reason I got into what I do today, is because my dad was bullied into a surgery that several other doctors said that he didn't need, and I saw the psychological impact of that, and it really kind of sparked that for me. And not that I'm saying all doctors bully, but it's the system is designed in a certain way because they only profit when you're sick. They don't study health. They study disease. They study symptom management. They don't look at the person as beyond physical tissue. They don't see it as beyond,
the metaphysical, the physical being in front of it. And you kind of can't.
No.
They kind of can't. In the system that they're living in, if there were, it is very difficult to do an individualized, holistic in the way that the medical system is created today. It is curated to profit, but it's also curated not with health in mind, like you said. It is.
Yeah, I don't think it's too difficult. I think it's not profitable enough, because to do that requires multiple hours on end. And the average doctor visit, if you go to your classic GP, I think it's 15 minutes, is it? Yeah. So, I mean, they want you in and they want you out because they get paid per person, not per hour. And you have to go to someone, I guess in our culture, what we would call alternate, like self or myself, chiro, physio, trainer, whoever, to get that one-on-one care beyond looking at your tonsils, sticking your tongue out, whacking your knee, and off you go. Here's a prescription of something. So we don't have that in the medical system. And again, I think if I'm to be my own devil's advocate, the positive side of that is that so many people are conditioned to rely on that system, that if everyone were to get multiple hours, then the system would be kind of jammed up anyway.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The system's already jammed up. So, like from my example, from my experience, like being in a hospital, there's no real space for wellness in there. It is really like a I don't know whether this is the right word, but more like an animal, like cattle yard, where you've got to get through all the cattle before the day's out, because all the cattle need to be drenched and they need to get through, let's get it done. And so we don't have the time. We can't get another person in tomorrow. Like, we just got to get through the people we've got here, to the animals, get them through and get them done and get them out, and as quickly and as succinctly as we possibly can, with minimal management and minimal time and minimal effort. And forget about the layers of like money and big pharma, but like from that perspective, on the ground, there's a lot of really good people, and there's a lot of beautiful people trying to do the right thing, trying to really support and help. And I get that, and I saw that firsthand, the amount of actual wonderful staff that exists. The hard part is that once you toe their line, and once you have decided whether you're going to walk with them and go along that path, the minute you decide to go against their path, the way that they try and get you to stay on the path is through coercion. And that is the point where, whilst they're telling you, okay, it's okay if you want to choose a different path, they're saying that, but at the same moment they're telling you, all of a sudden everything got so much more dire. So it was like, okay, here's this scan, it shows this thing, it's not really, okay, yeah, come and sit in here for 4 hours, okay, we'd like to keep you overnight so we can kind of do another scan tomorrow, and we'll just prep you in case something could happen, let's prep you in case we might want to put you into surgery or whatever for this particular example or person. We'll get you all prepped up. And then when the person says, you know what, actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to take your tool. Thank you. I'm not going to stay. I'm going to follow what my intuition tells me. And it tells me that this doesn't feel very, this doesn't feel holistic, and it doesn't feel like I'm going to get the best of what I think I need. Then all of a sudden, you actually might die. You could probably have a seizure tonight. This is really, really dangerous. You are likely to die. Actually, no, you're likely to die. We need you to stay. In the same breath, you can go if you want. But if this were me, I would not be leaving. And that is a 101 fail in terms of health ethics that I learned in my very first year of uni. You never should bring yourself into it if you are being, if you are giving a factual, non-biased piece of information, that I would do this part shouldn't come into it. But that's the human speaking, and that's how we get coerced, in a sense, to move away from what we feel is to be right, and we willingly give over to the system itself.
Yeah, and that's, again, the whole "you're going to die now" is based on a photograph, one still frame from an entire movie. That's what that is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I just want to bring it back to this idea of whilst the medical system is pretty particular about symptom management, they are also very particular about single symptom management. So that can go both ways. So, for example, if you have a single symptom, they will focus on that single symptom, and that will be the one, guys, that will be that telescope view. But it also happens in the other. It also happens, this is that other aspect of the towing the line or willingly giving over to the system. And it comes down to sort of that labels and that label ideology. So we were talking about this when we were prepping for today, and it's this thing of you could have a single symptom like a runny nose. And that runny nose could be a runny nose, a common cold. And that could be that. But if that runny nose has some correlation to something a little bit more sinister, then all of a sudden that runny nose is no longer just a runny nose. That runny nose is practically cancer.
Well, you need surgery and all kinds of meds for that.
Yeah.
Runny nose. Yeah.
And it's when we get that label that we long for a label. We long to be put into boxes. Our brain, our logical brain really loves that. Okay, yeah, I got a label. Now I know. Now I feel safe. I feel safe held in this container, even though the container itself is contaminated and makes me freak out. I now have a label, and that.
Okay, can I take you through an exercise? I want you just to tell me how you feel when I say words.
Okay.
Okay. Common cold. What's your left brain response? Your left brain's going to pick it apart and dissect it and put it in that box, because that common cold has its own thought form, its own ideology. So you're going to have you and the person across the street are going to have different ideologies of what common cold is or means or however. So go.
Chicken soup.
Okay. Bronchitis.
Cough.
Cancer.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want you to open up your right brain intuitively and big picture, whole picture. What's the first one? Common cold.
Slow down.
Bronchitis. I did not write these down.
Drink more water.
Cancer.
A moment in time.
And don't those responses have very different feels to them?
I would definitely say they feel different in terms of cancer. When you think of cancer in terms of left brain and fear, and then when I think of it in terms of right brain, it feels very narrow. So it's okay, cancer is just a real narrow, minute piece of the whole.
Yeah, that's what any disease is. So if you think of any diagnosis, pick one.
Whooping cough.
Okay, so what does whooping mean?
I don't know. It's like a sound, I think.
That's just continual.
Oh, continue. Okay.
So what's cough?
Expulsion from the lungs.
Yeah. So it's continual expulsion from the lungs. Now, if I say that, not that scary. But then if I put the label to it, shit.
Yeah. And I think this is where we get to a point in for many of us in this, like walking a life holistically, genuinely believing in the ability of the body to heal all things if given the right environment.
Mm-hmm. That's what it's designed to do.
So when we are, when we are given words in a sense that aren't already in a scary box, like you just shared, what was it?
Cancer. No, whooping cough.
No, but don't say continual expulsion of the lungs.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, okay, continual expulsion of the lungs. Okay, cool. All right. So that doesn't sound great, but it also doesn't incite fear.
No, but doesn't it also give you the sense, the body's doing what it does automatically? So
I can trust the body to do what it needs to do.
I've got this.
Yeah.
So do I need to take the medication? In some cases, potentially. But at the same time, okay, well, if I've got bronchitis or whooping cough, why is there irritation in the lung? Where did that come from? The lungs breathe in air. What's in the air in my environment? Is the air clean? What else is in the environment? Is it dusty? Is it mold? Is there
chemicals in the air?
Chemicals, electromagnetic radiation, all these things. But no, we're not allowed to look at that because we become a conspiracy theorist if we do.
Don't get all pissed off. But realistically, on like a really, cool, calm, collected plane, it just is. And I think this is that point of towing the line, of getting to that point where we're willingly giving ourselves over to a system that is fed and bred on fear. And like I shared earlier, like I this week have been shown that there is possibility of that. And then it feels super empowering to go, okay, yeah, right, that is this for this person.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also not that at the same time. It can be just so simple.
Yeah, well, often is.
And the thing that is pretty wild is that if I use this example, where I would have been taken had I stayed within the confines of the hospital environment in this moment with nothing other than a piece of paper. There's nothing else that is sinister enough that would deem danger. We could have been taken to the next and the next and the next, where there's all of a sudden, surgery, or there's, rash decisions, pressure mounting. All of these things could have happened like that in that moment. And it's like, and then next minute you're, because of the rash, fear-based, like even in the diagnosis or the, that picture that was created, the amount of fear that was there in that moment, it's like that, it's palpable, the vibration of fear that comes from the people that are doing their jobs, right? They don't want to see these things, but shit, when they do, it's so scary. It's like that vibration is not healing. No. And that is essentially something that we would see, like you specifically have seen these sorts of things and gone, oh, okay, yeah, all right. That's just a picture. Cool. We've got that. What I can see is left, right, up, down, around.
Yeah.
Let's look at you as a person. What's been going on? How's this been affecting you? How have you been impacted?
Well, that's what's good about the Czech Institute, because they're the ones that I've always been a big picture viewer. Person. And it was Paul Czech who really opened my eyes to don't treat the disease, treat the person who's acquired the disease. And when you break apart certain think of a diagnosis like PTSD, for example. I was working with a PTSD patient this week, and they were freaking out about the actual diagnosis. And it's
PTSD.
It's a label.
Yeah.
So, I've got PTSD. I should be depressed. Or I should be anxious all the time. I don't really feel that. Sure, I get bouts of it, but I don't feel like I fit the description given to me by a higher power. So I said, okay, let's just break that down. P is post. It's in the past. The past is pasteurized. It's dead. There's no bringing it back. All you can do in regards to the past is change your relationship to it. So we did that. T is traumatic. So there's been a trauma. So in other words, what do you need in your environment in order to heal that trauma? What kind of people, what kind of plants, animals, foods, water, whatever that is in your environment. S is stress. Where is your biggest stress coming from? Is it dietary? Is it mental, emotional? Is it environmental? Is it electromagnetic? Is it thermal? Is it chemical? Where's the greatest source of external stress coming in? Because you're going to perceive your stress. Your perception of stress is a combination of your internal environment meeting your external environment. Those two come together. They bring their hands together, which makes a clapping sound, and that vibration is what we call reality. Then we have disorder. So what does disorder mean? Out of order. You're just dysregulated. So what's the first thing we can do to help with dysregulation? Well, let's get our rhythms back. Let's go to bed on time. Let's wake up with the sun. If we're tired, have a nap, or don't go for coffee first, but let's just try and find another supplement, another thing. Yeah. Maybe drink more water. Just try different things to see how you feel. And then all of a sudden that wasn't as scary anymore. And he's not only changed his relationship to it, but he's implemented all of these things. And I think he's got his doctor's visit next week to check up. But he feels absolutely fine. And when he does, let's say, get triggered by something, which we all do. I mean, everyone, I think over the age of 5 would have some kind of PTSD. So on some level, anyone who's been conceived has some kind of PTSD, and it's not your identity. If you don't want it to be your identity, it's not. But if you do, then a lot of people find some kind of leverage and power in that against others. So that's their victim archetype playing them. However, if you can change your relationship to it and become healthy and vital enough, it's really about what buffer can you create when stuff happens. Because stuff will happen on every single level. The lions and the tigers and the bears that we spoke about, but also there's always something in the air that's going to try and kill you. That's just part of being in nature. And to the degree that we're being part of nature, yeah.
If we adjust our perspective to that which is given to us, so the label or the picture that has been painted,
yes,
for us, and then we change our perspective upon that, yes, we can then thrive, or we can use it as a tool piece to thrive more.
Yeah, you can use it for motivation as well. And if you really want motivation to get healthy, get a real, what you would consider bad, big diagnosis.
Yeah,
that'll change your day.
You and change you. Yeah.
Well, that's what it's there for. It's the catalyst that we usually require to change, and we don't sometimes know. We get in the habit of life, and we get into patterns that feel fine and that might be a lot of fun, but are they sustainable? Too much of anything is going to cause some kind of pain at some level. And something like cancer, it takes 10 to 15 years according to research, to acquire what we call cancer. And something like cancer is actually a protective mechanism. If you look at what a tumor is, it's a culmination of all the toxicity in the body into one little package. So a lot of doctors will go to get a biopsy, poke the tumor to get a sample of it, breaking open the tumor, and that's where it spreads. But it in itself is a protective mechanism. They get me started on bloody viruses. But that's just an example of how we can take a word and have an association with it, our relationship with it. Now, you said you meant, was it cancer that was the fear? Is that what came up for you before?
Oh, yeah.
So what's the most disabling thing for the immune system? Fear.
Oh, yes.
Being in a state of fear disables the immune system.
Yeah.
So then you've kind of got a double whammy. So
yeah, totally. And that's what we spoke about too, is just this idea that when you are in this position where you are, being met with fear from the other side, right? Like that's where they're not bullying you out of, or they're not trying to coerce you to do what they want you to do because they're bad people. They're literally, because they have been trained to know that this is bad, this is dangerous, fear this. Therefore, it is important that you also fear this with me and you vibrate with me on this. And we then can move together and you can get the help that I know I can provide you that you need. And I think it is understandably so. And I just want to bring it back to this idea of being more, we ourselves find ourselves in quite an alternate space, because whilst there is fear in moving away, the reason there is fear is because there's not a lot of people that truly trust in their humanity and that truly trust in their ability to be one with the whole. And that's daunting and that's scary. But it also reminds me time and time again to continue walking this path and reminding myself through every experience I've been through that focus on the whole. And when I do that, whilst there might be a symptom, the whole is well. The whole is very well. And even using their tools, for example, blood work or other like physical tests or, really basic things like a hearing test or, whatever that might be, or like, what you said before, when you tap and whack the knee and like, what are they, reflexes test, like those sorts of things, like use those also. Those tools demonstrate, say, for example, everything is well, or the stethoscope to check the lungs. The lungs are actually really well. Yeah. And so whilst there might be a picture that shows that there's something on a scan, that there's a picture that there's something where it shouldn't be, that is not the only piece of the puzzle. And so that is where, when we toe this line and we go, you know what, thank you for that tool, thank you for that piece of information, I'm going to add it to my post-it notes that I've got set up with all my other wellness things. And I'm not going to concede to this idea that is the only thing that exists. And like we've spoken about, all the labels and and how they impact us. They impact you. Yeah. They impact me. So it is such a radical thing to actually stand in front of the lion and go, hey, yep, I see that you're there, but I'm not going to allow you to break my stride.
And a lot of that comes from knowing yourself as well. Because if you don't know yourself, then you get a diagnosis like that. You can imagine what that does to yourself. It becomes you. You become that. And if you can get a diagnosis or a certain reading or certain words on a scan, but you know yourself, let's say it's a lung thing, think, oh, well, how is my breathing? Yeah, I have been a bit stressed, or this has happened, or that, or maybe my spine needs to get checked, or maybe I need to do more stretching, or
I feel this tightness in my body. I'm noticing this tightness. So, okay, that let me work on that tightness before I dive into
before I get something cut out.
Yeah. And I mean, like the 101 of health is that what you shared before is it takes 10 to 15 years for a tumor to really take hold, and that is going to be like detectable. So there's energetics obviously happening day in, day out. And so
that's why I wrote the book, What Pain is Telling You, because the diagnosis really is the symptom. It's not like if you get diagnosed with a disc bulge, why is the bulge? Why is it bulging? Why is it bulging on the left or the right or at this segment here? The real diagnosis is likely poor diet, inflammation, dehydration, poor movement mechanics, poor breathing, loss of stress. That's the actual diagnosis.
And are you willing to do anything about it?
Me, yes.
Good job, Matt. Proud of you. Keep towing that line.
Thank you. I will.
But yeah, I guess it's something for all of your listeners out there to consider in yourself, like, where am I willing to give over to a system that doesn't actually see me as a whole? And why would I do that? Why would I move away from the feeling and knowing in myself that I am a healing extraordinaire?
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's not about, we're not saying diss the system. No. It's about recognize that it is a tool and go within before you go without, and then see where you're out of balance, because any disease is really a symptom of an out of balanced mind, body, spirit complex. There's something that's been out of whack potentially for a while, and that diagnosis is really just a symptom of that.
So take a deep breath, remember you're human, and trust in your whole.
Enjoy yourself.
Oh yeah, and have fun. See ya.
You've been listening to The Wizard and the Priestess. Thanks for stopping by. Stay connected and be open.